Evening. As you can see, some of the snow behind me on our video wall was the reality for many of us in Johannesburg. Today, residents traveling to work mesmerized by what they were seeing this morning. Little flakes of snow blanketing your windscreen, and one of the coldest days of the year so far. Did you miss it? Were you stuck at the office? Well, here is what it looked like.
Yeah, so cold. Yeah, it's very, very cold. Yeah.
My day today is very cold, you know. You can actually see how it is, huh? We suffering here. This is not us, the Joburg guy.
Really was quite something to see, wasn't it? By the way, if you have any videos or photos that you'd like to share with us, just head over to upload.eNCA.com. I know it sounds weird, there's no @ sign. It's upload.eNCA.com. Just go leave your photos and videos there with your name and where you were, and we could use a few of those here on air and also on our website, eNCA.com. So, of course, many of us aren't used to driving in that kind of weather, don't know how to drive in those sort of conditions. The South African Weather Service issuing multiple warnings around the country for today. Damaging winds down in the Eastern Cape and widespread and disruptive snowfalls excuse me, for parts of the country. So what are the safety tips that motorists should be employing in those kinds of conditions? Well, let's speak to an expert on this. I'm joined by MaterDrive CEO Eugene Herbert, making time for me this evening. Eugene, good to have you back with us on eNCA as well. And no, some of us drive fancy cars, not me, but some people do, that have snow mode in their car, but we still have no clue what to do when the white flakes come down.
Gareth, maybe this is an opportunity for you to test it. You're not going to do any harm to the vehicle if you activate it. If I can just in simplistic terms tell you what it does, is it just slows everything down. So in other words, you won't have any harsh pull-offs. When you engage like that, it's going to pull off in a higher gear. So the likelihood of you having wheel spin is minimized dramatically, which in fact brings us to the way we should be driving in any case. And let's just warn motorists, please, in conditions such as this, we don't drive with our speed control on. It's highly dangerous. And of course, we also do all the other things that we shouldn't do in adverse weather, such as let's not speed, let's keep an adequate following distance, and let's be certain that we're giving plenty of time to get to our destination. But if I can just touch on two things for you, if I may. One, the challenge with something like snow is that it distracts us, and I'm quite sure you saw it. Everybody's so fascinated. They're looking out the window at where snow is falling, etc. And as a result, they're probably not paying attention to the road, and the likelihood of them doing something such as riding into the back end of a vehicle is probably exacerbated considerably. So please, if we're driving, let's just pay attention to the task. But then the other point, if I can just share with you, toward the latter part of the morning, it became what is probably sleet. So snow is in itself not too much of a problem, but when sleet hits the ground and it's particularly cold like this, it turns into what they call black ice. So it's invisible to the eye because it's now frozen. And if we hit a patch like that, I don't care what electronic aids you've got on the vehicle, you're probably going to experience a rather heart-pumping moment, to put it mildly.
Yeah, maybe a trip to your local trouser department as well. Let me just ask you this, because many people may have taken part in these advanced driving courses, various levels, and they're taught how to handle a car. Let's assume nearly everyone watching, Eugene, has not actually done a course like that. If you were to hit a patch of black ice, as unlikely as it may be, let's be honest, we're still in Joburg. Yes, we had some snow, but it's not exactly Colorado. If you were to hit that, what should you do as a driver? Can you just give us some free tips?
Sure, not a problem. But bearing in mind, circumstances may differ. But the one thing that we don't want to do is stay far away from the brakes as possible. Let's not hit the brakes, because that's just going to make it worse. The vehicle will skid out of control. Keep the throttle steady. If necessary, just back off ever so slightly. Keep the steering wheel straight. And we trust that we're on a fairly straight road at the time. So once we're through it, the vehicle will regain control. If, however, we are conscious of the fact, and here's the advice that we give you, please, we are aware of these things. So let's just slow everything down, because the momentum that you would build up in the event of hitting some ice like that and skidding off the road is probably going to take you into a ditch on the side. So we'd rather not be there. We'd rather stay on the road. And if perchance you see somebody doing something silly, let's not emulate their bad behavior. Let's just, if possible, slow down to speed at which we feel comfortable. That doesn't mean 40 kilometers an hour, by the way, but it could be in a residential area.
Yeah, it could be, because also the issue is on the highways, for example. I know why you're saying this. You slow down to 40 k's an hour, and now you become an obstacle to somebody else behind you. He isn't paying attention and busy filming the snow as well. Can we just go off-road for a second as well? Because don't we just love all taking our buckies out when it's snowing like this? And I don't know how many times there have been call-outs by, for example, the South African off-road search organizations like SARSA to go rescue someone in their new fancy 4x4 who doesn't know what they're doing with it. What's the advice there? Don't go bundu bashing if you don't know how to drive it.
You see, South Africans love to think that because they bought a 4x4, they're capable of driving a 4x4. Now, under normal circumstances, when you're going off the pavements, it's probably not too much of an issue. But once we encounter adverse weather conditions off-road, there's so many unforeseen things that we may have to deal with. People have not been equipped, notwithstanding the technology on vehicles, to be able to drive through all these challenges. The laws of physics take over at some stage. So that's the time when you determine that it's best to stay on the good stuff, the hard stuff, and preferably the black stuff. Because if you're a driver who's inexperienced, you may then panic, and as a result you floor it unnecessarily, or you hit the brakes and you now skid off into a culvert on the side of the road. That's when the rescuers come out and look for you, detracting them from more important tasks at the time.
And it's one of the issues we hear about during the rainy season, not just in Johannesburg, of course, but around the rest of the country, the importance of windscreen wipers, especially during snow, is paramount. It's paramount during the rain. During snow, I mean, it's impossible if they're worn out.
I'm so glad you raised it, because we wait until we have a bad experience with water or snow to find out that our windscreen wipers are substandard. So please, we know it's rainy weather at a certain time, so let's on a regular basis ensure that our windscreen wipers are changed, upgraded, or done whatever is necessary. And then also, please, here's a simple task: just make sure your windscreen is clean. You don't want to find that the windscreen wipers go across and suddenly everything becomes a smudge. And here's maybe another tip for motorists on this chat in the office this morning. So do I now go and pour hot water over the windscreen? No, for heaven's sake, not. Warm water is probably the best, because it's going to take the ice away. You can clean your windscreen with decent windscreen wipers, and you are able to see the road ahead. And of course, let's not forget behind and on the sides, in which we need to look out and find out what other traffic is engaging with us.
Yeah, please, if anybody goes and grabs a kettle of boiling water and pours it on a frozen windscreen, please take a video and send that to me. I want to see how it works out for you. Eugene, as I say goodbye to you as well, just wrap it up. Someone who's not going 4x4ing, let's just recite what really should be common sense driving, but there's nothing common about the way we drive in snow like this. Just wrap it up for us.
So please, here's the word of advice. Keep your speed to a manageable level. You know what your experience is. We're not Michael Schumacher or anybody like that. Keep an adequate following distance. Ensure that your vehicle is well maintained, as we should normally under any circumstances. Make sure that you don't do any harsh movements, such as harsh acceleration, harsh braking, and please just stay off the speed control.
Stay off the speed control, cruise control, whatever you'd like to call it, and for heaven's sakes as well, stay off your phone. We've all seen the snow now, not while you're driving. Get a passenger to do it. Eugene, always good talking to you. Thank you. CEO of MaterDrive, Eugene Herbert. Just be safe on those roads. Yes, Joburg isn't expecting more snow necessarily, but the rest of the country still icy cold. So please be careful in those parts of the country. So we take